Hi, I'm Nick Woodyatt and I'm the Soils Health Consultant for Aiva Fertiliser, and this video today is to show the difference, or at least join in the conversation on whether we should use treated seed or untreated seed. Today we are lucky enough to be on Brewood Farm, a farm that is managed by Tim Parton, one of the most passionate farmers there is out there as far as soil health and soil life is concerned. Tim has run a regenerative system on this farm now for getting on for 10 years, using cover crops, careful use of not going onto the ground when it's too wet, putting what's necessary in the right place as far as nutrients is concerned, and balancing up macro and micronutrients. Rather than just blasting macronutrients in, the micronutrients have been put in there as a balance. Tim, how long have you been working in a regenerative system?
I've been interested in soils for a long time, and that passion has grown over the years. From about 2009, 2010, I moved into a strip till system, and then in 2015 I moved into a no-till system. But that doesn't necessarily mean I'm against tillage. If tillage is necessary, I'd look at it, but it would have to be really, really necessary. It's just all about the health and heart of the soil.
One point I'd like to pick up on there, you didn't go straight from conventional farming to no-till farming. You actually allowed the soil to regenerate first before you went into no-till farming.
I certainly did, because soil, it's alive and it breathes and it needs that air in there. And I think a lot of people, they make that transition into no-till when their soil isn't quite ready for it, and that's when we get this yield dip, because the soil isn't quite ready. People make a big jump and the soil doesn't quite know what's going on. It's been used to this being a drug addict and having all the elements brought to it, and now we suddenly want it to work for itself. And that's why, in my opinion, people get the yield dip, because the soil isn't ready. It's just making a jump too far.
Obviously today we're here looking at the difference between treated and untreated seed. Conventional agriculture has used treated seed as putting a fungicide on the seed to treat a problem that may or may not occur in the future. Tim, when did you start to think that using a fungicide on the seed was perhaps detrimental rather than doing a good thing?
Because in my head, all fungicides are still a poison. They're a poison to the soil. You're not working with nature, you're working against nature. And once I started to go down that route, and then having the seed tested, and there's so many seed dressings put on seed that there's no need to put it on. It's just not necessary. But you're putting that poison into the soil right from day one, and you're stopping that synergism between the fungi in the soil and your seed. You're just putting a barrier there, and we want that synergism straight away. We want it to be working and helping each other. And I think this just demonstrates the difference, because if you look at the field, I mean, it's just remarkable, the difference. Well, it just shows how much it's holding it back.
That's right. Well, it's going back to conventional, isn't it, where we're told that preventative is better than curative, whereas we're preventing against problems that we're not necessarily going to get in the first place.
Well, it's back to that old thing when my old agronomist years ago would give me a reckon, oh, just put that in while you're going through, because you don't want to go through again, and just put that in while you're going through, you don't want to go through again, and the till's just going cha-ching, 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 and I'm not the one making the money. The chemical
it's growing by fear.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we look behind it. So basically what we can see is we've got seed that is untreated and seed that is treated, with, quite frankly, an obvious difference.
And they were both drilled on the same day, both the same amount of seeds per square metre. There's nothing, nothing I could have done to make this happen. This is just purely the fact that one has a seed dressing, one hasn't, and it's just the biology's working on this side, and it's not working that side. It's just held it back because it can't interact, because I've put a barrier there.
And both sets of seed were treated with the biology, the extra biology, the diatomaceous earth as silicon, and the humate. So they both had the same. So the only difference,
exactly the same.
Yeah, so the only difference is the fungicide.
It's the fungicide. That's all it was. Just that poison.
Yeah. So it really is it is so obvious,
proves the point.
Isn't it?
I wouldn't have bought dressed seed. It's just the fact the company I was buying it off, none of them seemed to want to sell me seed undressed, and it's just ridiculous.
Now that we are starting to see that using fungicides where they're not needed, or not needed in a way that because we haven't got a disease at the time, can we start to say now then that we may be looking at why we're not getting the yields that our seed producers are saying that we should be?
I think definitely. I mean, it's proof's in the pudding there. The root system we've already seen on this plant compared to that plant. Roots make tillers and feed the plant. So that yield to me is already restricted on that side to this side. And I think the combine will prove it when we get in here next year.
Well, that fits in with what we're always told. The first 30 to 50 days of a plant's germination life is directly linked to yield, and you can see that there. That plant, obviously, if everything and the rest of the growing period goes according to plan, that is going to give us a better yield than that.
If you were coming to buy this field, this crop, and it was in two halves, you'd be buying this side. Anybody can see that is a much healthier looking plant, and that it will follow through right the way through to harvest. It's not going to hold back. This side will definitely yield more. I mean, just look at it. Proof's in the pudding.
If we take that to the next step into the spring, should we be using preventative fungicides on crops just for the sake of it, without taking weather and stage of crop into consideration?
Definitely not. Why would we want to do that? If we start using fungicides, it's just the same as using insecticides. We're back on that hamster wheel, and once you're on, you can't get off. You're just going faster and faster, and the cash till's registering again and again and again. What is the point? I use a fungicide now just as that fire engine if something's gone wrong with the biology, because biology is a living thing. You never know when it's going to go wrong, and that's where I want the chemicals to back me up. But I don't want to be using them unless I've got it. What's the point? It's just going to restrict yield. This is just proof of it.
So if we take preventative fungicides out of the equation, can we put biology into it?
Definitely. I think we've proved that this last year, haven't we, Nick? I mean, we had such good yields here. We were anything from 9.5 to 11 tonnes to the hectare, and we used a little bit of fungicide on the Woodyatt because some yellow rust was coming in, but other than that, we were clear. We used biology and we had much healthier plants, which is going to be a knock-on effect for this year because I've got much healthier soil. I'm not going to have the carryover of fusarium, and the whole thing is just getting healthier.
You mentioned fusarium. On our conventional farms, we were seeing between 25 and 40% fusarium on the seed. What did you get here?
We were 2%, and we'd used biology to do that. What more could I want? Because again, that's not going to be in the straw. It's not carrying over to the next crop. What's not to like? It's cheaper. It works. It's a healthier environment.
And it did work this year. So are we going to expand it next year where we use the biology earlier, so that we try and build up the amount on the plant earlier to try and resist using any chemical at all? Is that the plan? If
Definitely. We're biological here now. We're not going to take that step back. We're moving forward with biology. Biology's got all the answers. We've just ignored it all last century, and now is the time to start moving forward and work with nature. Don't fight her. Life's a lot easier if you work with nature, Nick. You know that.
No, that's absolutely right. Tim, once again, it's always a pleasure to come here to see what you're doing, and I come here on a weekly, monthly basis. It's fantastic, so thank you for inviting us.
You're always welcome, Nick.
Thank you.